we have Dr. K.K. Sethi, who's come in just now.
Yeah.
And I invite him to give his talk on
PCI versus CABG.
PCI versus CABG.
Perhaps discuss an oft-repeated topic that we've been talking about for the last couple of years now as to whether we should be doing angioplasty or bypass surgery for left main disease. And the question that has been posed to me is PCI or CABG for left main disease after the Syntax trial.
Perfectly on time.
Who wins?
On time.
I think to put the matters into perspective, it is time that we should come out of the concept of competitive efficacy of a particular procedure, and having had some data available to us on left main stenting as well as data on coronary artery bypass surgery for a very long time now, it is perhaps time for us to be able to make decisions based on requirements and situations in individual patients. Oftentimes, left main coronary artery disease, which actually represents a very small proportion of patients with coronary disease, but is perhaps the last bastion to be conquered by the interventionists. Whenever you have a discussion, it provokes a very strong emotional reaction, both from the surgeons as well as from the interventional cardiologists. But if we actually look back at the history of surgery of left main disease, surgical recommendation about left main disease has been based on a randomized controlled trial that was published in 1976, and that was based on data of about 113 patients, as shown in the lower half of this statement, where surgery for left main disease was compared with optimal medical therapy available at that time. Subsequently, Grundzig attempted to do angioplasty in the left main disease in only his third patient in whom he was attempting an angioplasty, and unfortunately, in spite of having a very good result, the patient died suddenly 3 months later. Now that dampened the spirit of the interventional cardiology a little bit, but subsequently from a number of Asian society centers and some centers from the Europe, after the advent of stents, attempts were made to stent the left main coronary artery with bare metal stents, and then having had some encouraging results, it was passed on to drug-eluting stents which have been available to us for quite some time now. And we now have a large body of data from non-randomized registries and single-center studies that gives us some insight, but we have somewhat limited data from randomized studies where surgery has been compared with angioplasty in left main disease. We must remember that left main is a heterogeneous disease, and oftentimes it is associated with 1, 2, or 3 vessel coronary artery disease. In fact, isolated left main is there in approximately 10 to 15% of patients. And mind you, I would also like to emphasize here that there is a difference in the percentage of patients with left main combined with other associated vascular involvement that you will see when you look at the randomized studies vis-a-vis the non-randomized registries. To give you an example here, if you look at the Syntax data, where patients were actually balanced for surgical treatment as well as for PCI in equal numbers, the isolated left main disease is only 13%, left main with 1 vessel disease 20%, and almost 70% of the patients, or 68% of the patients, have left main with 3 vessel disease or left main with 2 vessel disease. In the registries, on the other hand, where treatment decisions about patients are based on what the physician thinks is the best possible treatment for a given case, the percentage of disease with left main coronary stenosis is entirely different. And here is one example where when patients are treated with drug-eluting stent, 23% have isolated left main, only 5% are with CABG. And as the complexity of disease increases from 1 to 3 vessel disease, the percentage of patients on the surgical side goes significantly higher, particularly when right coronary artery is also involved along with left main and 2 or 3 vessel disease. So definitely there is a selection bias in the registries, which is not applicable to randomized controlled trials, and therefore that to some extent would affect the results of the follow-up. Having said that, I would also like to say that a large number of registries and single center studies have been published since 2006, both with bare metal as well as with the drug-eluting stents that have been compared with surgery. And looking at this data, this is a very crowded table starting from 2006 downwards to 2008. You'll see that estimated odds ratio of death, myocardial infarction or stroke in the PCI group versus the CABG group, there has not been very significant difference between these two overall results as a group when patients have been followed up for up to 3 years. However, as we know, subsequently we have had some more studies in the year 2010, which have also been non-randomized studies and that have shown almost similar results, except for the fact that the rate of repeat revascularization has been higher in patients who have undergone percutaneous intervention vis-a-vis those who have undergone CABG, given the limitations of case selection as well as the propensity matched scoring method of statistical analysis that has been used in a large number of these studies. Then we have had very small randomized trials. The first one included only about 100 patients, and subsequently we have had the Syntax study, which had a 3 years follow-up is now available for almost 700 patients in the Syntax study, and let's go through the results of that. At the end of 3 years, the MACE, which is death, the combination of death, cerebrovascular accident and myocardial infarction to 3 years, has been almost similar between the CABG and the percutaneous intervention group. If we look at repeat revascularization, as you see here, that is where the major difference comes between angioplasty and surgery, and that has been a consistent finding in almost all the studies that have been reported. However, having said that, I would also like to say that most of the separation of the curves between surgery and angioplasty, if you look at it carefully, takes place by the end of the first year. That means the maximum difference in repeat revascularization between surgery and angioplasty comes in the first year, where in the Syntax you see it is 6.5% with surgery with about 12% with angioplasty. And in the subsequent years, year 2 and year 3, there is not very much difference between these two, non-statistically significant difference, and the curves remain almost parallel to each other. However, follow-up beyond 3 years is not yet available, and a sub-analysis of the patients classified according to low, intermediate, and high Syntax scores is now being published. And that shows that in patients with low score, which is 0 to 22, there is no difference in the long-term outcomes between CABG and percutaneous intervention. And the same thing is true in patients with intermediate scores between 23 and 32. But however, the number of patients when you do a subgroup analysis is about 200 in each of these groups. In the patients with a high Syntax score, which is score more than 33, the differences between percutaneous intervention and bypass surgery are clearly obvious very early, and the differences are really large, and the curves somehow continue to separate even towards the end of 3 years that we can see here. Revascularization is significantly higher in patients with percutaneous intervention as compared to surgery, and that if we summarize the results at the end of 3 years, overall adverse events are comparable, but there was a higher rate of revascularization in the PCI group as compared to CABG, and a higher rate of cerebrovascular accident in the CABG group as compared to PCI, but this was true only in the first year. PCI outcomes are excellent relative to CABG in left main isolated and left main plus one vessel disease. And subsequently, we have had the data with sirolimus eluting stents. As you know, the Syntax trial was with paclitaxel eluting stents. One more randomized trial, which is again a very small study of about 200 patients only, which has been published in 2011 February, used the sirolimus eluting stents, and there also the results are almost same. Cumulative events, major adverse cardiac events are similar between CABG and percutaneous intervention, but the rates of repeat revascularization are higher in the percutaneous intervention group. Based on the data available in these relatively small randomized studies, the recommendations of both the American College of Cardiology as well as the European Society of Cardiology have changed somewhat. In the year 2010, European Society of Cardiology guidelines have included left main isolated or left main with one vessel disease or involving distal bifurcation as a class 2A or 2B indication for intervention, and left main with 2 or 3 vessel disease, but with syntax score of 32 or less has been included as a class 2B indication, and left main with a syntax score of more than 33, it has been recommended that the patients be sent for surgery. Now, the problem is that the number of patients are relatively small, and we certainly need more data and more follow-up, particularly in the intermediate risk group of patients, which is the syntax score between 22 and 33. And we have one more study which is awaited, the Excel trial, which is with the ZymeSvi, 2,500 patients, less than syntax score of less than 32, and we are awaiting the data. Perhaps we'll get more enlightened once we have the results. We should also realize that apart from the syntax score, which only looks at the anatomic complexity of atherosclerosis in the coronary vessels, there are other factors that affect the outcome of these patients. The comorbidities like age, renal failure, insulin-dependent diabetes, and chronic lung disease should not be forgotten, because they significantly affect the outcome of patients, and syntax score actually cannot predict the outcomes of patients based on these comorbidities, because these calculations are not included in the syntax score calculations. The question about diabetes is often discussed again, and although we do not have data on left main disease with diabetes, the diabetic and non-diabetic data in the syntax study, all patients included, was published last year, and I would just like to briefly discuss that with you. Now, this is the overall results, the deaths, CVA, and myocardial infarction in the diabetic and non-diabetic groups according to syntax score, low score, intermediate score, and high scores. And what is important to realize here is that with the percutaneous intervention, as the syntax score goes up from low to a high score, particularly in the diabetic group, you see an increase in the number of adverse events. Although it is not statistically significant in any of these three groups on the diabetic side and also on the non-diabetic side, the adverse events in the surgical group, in the diabetic and non-diabetic side, are relatively equal and constant, no matter whether the patient has diabetes or not. And as far as repeat revascularization is concerned, on the non-diabetic side, the repeat revascularizations again increase as we go up from a score of 0 to 33, but there is no statistically significant difference except in this, there is a statistically significant difference between CABG and stenting. The rates of revascularization are higher on the stenting side. The number of revascularizations which have to be repeated in the diabetics is significantly higher as compared to the non-diabetics in the PCI group. But in the surgical group, the repeat revascularizations between the diabetic and non-diabetics are relatively same, no matter what the syntax score is. So that's an important message that should be carried home. And finally, we should also remember that PCI of unprotected left main disease is presently in evolution. We have data up to 3 years, but we should also know that as far as the safety issues are concerned, the adverse events, the death, myocardial infarction, and cerebrovascular accidents are almost similar between CABG and PCI for a period of up to 3 years. It is unlikely that the results are going to change further, because most of these changes actually are seen, the differences are seen in the first year, but yet we require a 5 years follow-up or longer follow-up for us to compare PCI with CABG accurately. Meanwhile, the patients have to be decided upon on an individual basis, and at present, percutaneous intervention for left main disease plus a few simple lesions is recommended easily, because we know the results are good. And if the patient has advanced disease and multiple lesions, perhaps CABG would be a better alternative. At the same time, we should also review the surgical risks in a given case based not only on the syntax score, because that is not necessarily the best predictive score for the overall outcome of the patient, but also look at the comorbidities, look at the Euro score and the other things, and also look at the risks of repeat revascularization, and then make a considered decision for a given case. We have incomplete data at the moment for intermediate anatomic complexity, particularly patients with syntax score between 22 and 32, and we need more information because the number of patients that have been studied are relatively small. And patients with comorbidities such as chronic kidney disease and diabetes, again, we require more information. There is a possibility that there may be differences in performances of various drug-eluting stents. We have data with paclitaxel-eluting and some data with sirolimus-eluting stents, and we are expecting data with everolimus-eluting stents as well. And maybe that will make a difference, but we don't know. And finally, we need a better validation of risk scoring systems, because in order to make the decisions, we need something that can give us an overall perspective about what the long-term outcome of a given patient is going to be. Till then, we await the data and make our decisions based on the risk profile of the individual patient, the complexity of the anatomy that we see, the experience of the operator who is going to do the case, and overall assessment of the long-term outcome of a given case. So it's not a question of who wins, whether PCI wins or a CABG wins, but what should be foremost in our mind is that the patient should win and the patient should have the best outcome. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your kind attention.
What percentage of your interventions are left main interventions? Just to know your practice.
Registry data, the registry data, I have tracked the data for last 4 years. And in India, the total percentage of left main interventions is less than 1%.
No, I'm asking your practice. Sir.
My practice, it would be about, I think it's about 5% or less.
Okay.
About 5. Because we don't see so many left mains, which are good, suitable candidates for surgery. Left main with 3 vessel disease particularly, we prefer to send for surgery, except for a few patients. But isolated left main disease with LAD, circumflex, bifurcations, we take them for intervention.
Okay.
Any other question from audience?
Thank you very much, Dr.